This podcast is brought to you by Podcast Nation.
Shopping is hard, right? But there's a better way. Stitch Fix online personal styling makes it easy. I just give my stylist my size, style, and budget preferences. I order boxes when I want and how I want. No subscription required. And she sends just for me pieces, plus outfit recommendations and styling tips. I keep what I love and send back the rest. It's so easy. Personal styling for everyone. Get started today at stitchfix.com/Spotify. That's stitchfix.com/Spotify.
I should be doing this better. I should have known. I should have seen that coming. And a lot of therapists, I know I'm not the only one that says this, but we often remind people, don't should all over yourself. There's nothing good that comes of it.
Welcome to Nirvana Sisters, where we discuss all things health and well-being to help you achieve your highest state, your nirvana. Hi, I'm Amy Sherman, a marketing exec with a passion for wellness and beauty.
Hi, I'm Katie Chandler, a former fit model that has a passion for health and fitness.
We are sisters-in-law who share the same love for well-being, ready to sift through all the self-care noise and bring you a splash of what we think is fun. So let's get started.
In today's episode, we sit down with Dr. Erin Cooper. She's a clinical psychologist out of Cleveland, Ohio, and she specializes in the evaluation and evidence-based treatment of mood disorders, anxiety, stress, trauma. She pretty much covers everything. She's a generalist in her therapy and has a lot of great tips for us.
Katie, I really loved her talking about strategies to get through this time. I just found it really refreshing and I felt very calm after I spoke with her.
Yeah, she's definitely one of those people that you can talk to about pretty much anything. She has a lot of great things to say. And then stay tuned towards the end. Amy has a dynamite product review that is going to help with your sleep hygiene. So take a listen. Welcome to Nirvana Sisters with my very, very dear friend, Dr. Erin Cooper. Hi, Cooper.
Hello, Katie. Thanks for having me.
Hi, Dr. Cooper. It's so nice to meet you. I've heard so much about you over the years, so thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure.
I want to kick this off with our weekly Nirvana. Dr. Cooper, I am super excited to hear yours, but Amy, let's start with you. What was yours this week?
So mine this week was my dog's birthday. My dog Brando turned 16 this week. He's a little Maltese poodle mix, and literally the sweetest, cutest boy in the world. And he was my first baby. So he turned 16 this week. He got his driver's license and we made him a big steak dinner with the family. So it was super cute and fun. And he had lots of steak and enjoyed it. And it was just a sweet day to spend with the family. So that was my Nirvana of the week. What about you, Katie?
That's so sweet. I can picture little Brando eating a steak. Mine was something I have been meaning to do for a long, long time and was never able to do it because I didn't know how. And I finally really researched the way to start my meditation practice religiously. I've always kind of gotten the idea of how to meditate, and I've done little meditations here and there, and I've used the apps. But this week, I really dove into like why it wasn't working out in the past, what I needed to set myself up. I made my own meditation space. I came up with my own mantra. And I've been doing it 10 minutes a day, every day this week. And I'm just going to try to keep going. Like my goal is to be
Good for you.
Yeah, I'm trying to be less reactive. I'm a little reactive these days. So. All right, Dr. Cooper, what's yours?
So mine is related to fundraising for the rare condition that my daughter has. My almost 4-year-old has Prader-Willi syndrome. And fundraising is a really critical part of helping to fund a cure or a treatment, really, because it's a genetic condition. We can't cure it. But treatments for the various ways that this impacts our kids. And so we just wrapped up a fundraiser for Victoria's Doctor in Florida that raised $128,000, which was like,
wow,
double what any of us.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it was so awesome. And then on the heels of that, I launched my own first fundraiser. I designed my first t-shirt. That was really fun and a little outside of my comfort zone, and hopefully it's successful.
That's fantastic. I can't wait
That's
to get
amazing.
my hands on that t-shirt.
So again, thanks, Dr. Cooper, for being on the show. And we just want to ask you a couple couple what we call quick fire questions. Firstly, how long have you been a clinical psychologist?
I began my training back in 2008, and I've been independently licensed since 2015.
Great. And what do you specialize in?
So I truly consider myself to be a generalist. So depression, anxiety, life in general. And then I have particular interests and expertise in relationships, communication, health behavior changes, sexual functioning, sexuality, LGBTQ plus issues. But I see everything that might impact someone.
Great. And how would you describe your therapy style and what treatments do you utilize?
My patients over the years have given me some feedback on this. I'm myself, the way that I phrase things might be slightly different when I'm wearing my Dr. Cooper hat versus my Erin hat, but I'm still me in session with my patients. I'm honest. I'm at times directive if needed. I can be a bit irreverent or sarcastic, but I really seek to make people feel comfortable and to provide them with a non-judgment, totally safe space to share with, which is what is often their deepest, darkest secret that no one in the world knows but me.
I know that you've got the ability to make people that comfortable to speak to you about.
I'm already comfortable.
Really cool. Yeah.
I'm like, wait, I'm calling you after this. We have things to discuss.
So we obviously wanted to, talk to you for many reasons, but this episode in particular, we really want to get into self-care and combating isolation during this absurd COVID era and quarantine. What would you say is a common thread that you're seeing between your patients in regards to what's happening in the world right now?
Stress,
Mm-hmm.
fear, uncertainty, frustration, a lot of stress.
I would imagine it's manifesting in many ways. How are you seeing that affect people?
Yeah. So, some folks respond to this by isolating further. I can't see my friends in person, so I'm not even going to bother to FaceTime, or, the Zoom calls got old, and so I'm not even going to bother to call or text. And so some people really withdraw within themselves more during times of stress and fear. Other people are leaning into substances. So maybe they're drinking more than they normally would or that they previously did, or maybe they're using other substances as a way of coping. And then some people are leaning into this and trying to find, in spite of all the stress, trying to find like, okay, I have this time where my life, all of our lives, looks very different than it normally does, or I guess we should be careful to say normally, right? Because the normal is different moving forward. It looks different than it previously did. And how can we make the most of this time? Are there things around the house that we've wanted to improve, or projects that we've wanted to do, or traditions we've wanted to start with our children? How can we get the most of this time? So there's a lot of different ways that people respond to these kinds of things.
I love that. And I think all of those things you just described define so many different people that I know. And even me at sometimes, like in the beginning, I was drinking more and I was like on Zooms. And then I took the time and started realizing what inspires me and spending more time with my family and doing all the things that I normally don't get to do because you're busy and running around. So there's always like sort of this positive light of it as well.
Yeah. And it's almost as if, sure, like in the beginning of this, we all didn't know how long this was going to last. So I'm going to stress eat. I'm going to throw back the bottle a little bit more. I'm going to blow off some steam. And the next thing we know, it's almost a year later and we're still in it. So I assume a lot of people have just adjusted, right, to the best of their abilities.
It's interesting. One of the hardest parts about this for a lot of people has been this idea that it's the unknown of how long this is going to last, right? So when this first started, we were told, like, everyone locked down for X number of weeks and we'll get through this and things will go back to normal. And then those weeks turned into months, and then those months, right? And now here we are, as you said, a year later, and we're still dealing with this in ways that we were not expecting in the beginning. And so managing expectations is a really important part of helping us deal with stress. If we're told from the outset, this is something that's going to be hard for the next 12 months, people are going to approach it differently than if this is something that's going to be hard for the next, month or 12 weeks. So that expectation has been something that's really been troublesome for, I would say, most of us, if not all of us, but particularly troublesome for some other people who have a hard time tolerating uncertainty in this way.
Yeah, I would imagine that people that don't respond well to feeling out of control would have a really hard time because there's no answers right now. But just generally speaking, I think it would be interesting to know what challenge or issue would people maybe be surprised about or comforted to know that other people have as well.
I would say that people would be surprised to know that most of what they are beating themselves up for, there are many other people beating themselves up for the same things in the same way. I hear time and again, I mean, and it's almost verbatim, it's like, is there a club where everyone is talking about how to phrase these nasty comments that bounce around inside our head? And it's to the point where my perspective is as a cognitive behavioral therapist, we're able to create worksheets of cognitive distortions, not because, and most people, when I hand them one, will be like, yep, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me. And I always am quick to tell people, this is not, you're not going through that list saying that's me, that's me, that's me, because you're quote unquote crazy or there's something so wrong with you. It's that these things are so common. We're able to make worksheets outlining what they are.
So for the listener, what would be an example of a cognitive distortion?
Minimizing, right? So if someone gives you praise for, thank you so much for that wonderful thing you did for me and my family, in your head, or even out loud to the person, but what's most important in this case is what's in your head. In your head, you might be saying, well, it's not that big a deal. I'm not that good of a person. They don't really mean it, right? And it's always this negative, judgmental discounting of the good within you that maintains levels of distress and negative thinking that are really detrimental to our emotional and mental health.
That's interesting. So it's like a negative narrative that you kind of can bring around with you always. Wow.
Yeah. Or shoulds are a really common one. Like, I should be a better mom. I shouldn't have done that. I should be doing this better. I should have known. I should have seen that coming. And a lot of therapists, I know I'm not the only one that says this, but we often remind people, don't should all over yourself. There's nothing good that comes of it. And the idea of a should is that it implies, when you say I should do XYZ or I should be XYZ, it implies that there is one right and one wrong, right? If I should be something, that's the right thing. And if I'm not that thing, then I must be wrong. And that's just not real life, right? Real life is not black and white. Real life is many shades of gray.
I'd love to also get a definition specifically of CBT therapy, because I've heard about it and I've read about it a little bit. And I know one of the other things, I know that there's many sort of challenges or topics that a lot of people feel when they're going through this therapy, but I know another one is catastrophizing. Yep. If you could just explain to the audience what CBT is.
Sure. CBT looks at the interaction between our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. And those things all influence one another. And so, for instance, if I see a friend in the parking lot and I wave to that friend and they don't wave back, and I say to myself, what did I do to her? Why is she mad at me? What's her problem, right? If that's the narrative, the thought that I have about it, then it's going to impact how I feel about it. I'm going to feel angry, put off, disrespected, maybe sad. Oh no, I made her mad, right? Worried. And that's going to impact my behavior. So maybe I call my friend and yell at her. How dare you not say hi to me? What's wrong with you? Or if I'm worried she's mad at me, maybe I call and say, like, are we okay? Like, is everything fine? Right? That's going to impact my behavior, which is then going to further reinforce that kind of thinking. Whereas if I see a friend in the parking lot, I wave, say hi, and they don't say anything back, and I say to myself, she must not have seen me. Suddenly, my feeling, my emotional response to that event is kind of a nothing, right?
Right.
I don't need to get all upset about it. I'm not worried. I'm not scared. I'm not angry. It's just a nothing. She didn't see me. And so then that's going to influence my behavior, right? Maybe I call her like, hey, what were you doing, in the parking lot the other day? I saw you. You must not have seen me. Where were you going, right? And that's going to then further influence that more balanced frame of thinking.
It's like a chain of events.
Right. It's shifting that perspective, it seems like.
100% a chain of events. And the easiest way to break that negative chain is to identify the thoughts and start to identify the distorted ways that we think, the distorted ways that we talk to ourselves, often about ourselves, and change that habit. Because really it ends up becoming a bad habit. I mean, some of the people that I work with have been talking so so unkindly to themselves, giving themselves no grace at all for years or decades. And so it becomes this sort of like deep groove in the way that you think. And it takes some very intentional effort to erase that hard drive and write over a new one.
It kind of leans me into self-care, because I would imagine addressing that issue within yourself is a massive self-care tool. What are some of your other self-care tools? What are your go-tos?
So I think that it's important to recognize the mind-body connection. And so a lot of the initial self-care sorts of things that I address with patients is, how are you sleeping? How are you eating? Are you getting any exercise? Are you overindulging in substances? And it's not that any of these things are good or bad in and of themselves, but it's really about seeking balance. Because when our eating is out of balance, when our sleep is out of balance, when our physical movement is out of balance, when our substance use is out of balance, we can't possibly expect our emotional self to be in balance. And so sort of addressing, like, is there sleep hygiene that we need to talk about? Are there things that are you engaging in emotional eating that is potentially only exacerbating the issue and possibly creating additional issues? Are you, drinking a bottle of wine every night, to wind down? I'm all for a glass of wine, but what's a bottle of wine serving you, right? And so talking through those things is sort of, I think, step one of self-care. I also want to give people permission for self-care to be productive. I think that in a sort of stereotypical way, we often think of self-care as a bubble bath with candles lit and soothing spa music in the background, or piecing out from our family and going and getting a mani-pedi and a massage and having brunch with our friends. And that is awesome when it works for you and when it's possible for you, but it doesn't work for everybody and it's not possible for everybody, right? Mm-hmm. Those things require financial resources. They require often childcare assistance or time off work. And some people don't have those things. Other people also really struggle with just a need to accomplish things. A lot of people find it very hard to unwind and relax and care for themselves if their space is chaotic. And so I give people permission to allow maybe self-care for Sally looks like a bubble bath and a mani-pedi, but maybe self-care for Susan is reorganizing the closet. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. That's okay. Like, there's not a right or a wrong way to care for yourself. I'm all about focusing on what works for you and recognizing and acknowledging that what works for someone else may not work for you, and what works for you may not work for the next person.
That's great. Productivity can also be such a self-esteem booster, right?
Absolutely. It builds mastery, right? Like, look at this thing that I did. Look at this thing that I'm good at. And when we build mastery in any domain, it increases our self-esteem and it makes us feel better.
Also wanted to ask you, which I'm really curious about, it's kind of two questions in one. What are you seeing most commonly, generally, with couples, and what is something they can do to kind of get through this time? Number one. And number two is parenting disagreements, how people discipline their children differently and how they can kind of get on the same page.
Sure. With couples, I'm seeing a lot of the same thing that I'm seeing in individuals, just compounded. But a lot of couples are expressing burnout, especially depending on what level of isolation they've been in during this time, and how much they're seeing of each other. Many households have not only kids doing virtual school, but also both parents are working remotely. And suddenly we're all seeing a lot more of each other than we ever have, which is great, but also difficult. And both of those things can be true. So some couples are feeling a bit of being spread too thin, wearing a lot more hats than they might have normally, and being kind of stuck in a rut, because if they are isolating more, they are not necessarily going on the same kinds of dates that they were doing, or traveling the way that they used to, or seeing friends and having social interaction the way that they previously were.
And in regards to parenting, do you think, obviously this has raised a lot more issues because, I'm sure children, even the youngest ones, they might not be fully cognizant of what's going on, but certainly they're feeling the stress of it in some way, shape, or form. I mean, have you heard of that from your patients, that their kids are acting out more?
Definitely. Yeah, it's so, and I think that honestly, that's why self-care is so important in all of this, right? So if we take a step back and think about who we are with our partner and with our children and the impact that has. So if I say, and I say this with no judgment for anyone who might be feeling that, because I have been this person. If I say, well, I don't have time for self-care, I can do that later, I can take care of myself later, the person that I'm bringing to my family is not going to be my best self. I'm not going to be the best mom that I can be, not going to be the best wife that I can be. I'm going to be a person who is feeling stressed out and overwhelmed and any other host of uncomfortable emotions. So if we can take some time, and it doesn't have to be hours, it could be 5 minutes a day. I try to get people to commit to 20 minutes a day at least. But if we can find just even a small chunk of time to care for ourselves, then we are going to be better able to be the best version of ourselves for our loved ones. And especially when it comes to our children, we're going to be modeling that kind of behavior that we hope they are internalizing.
That's such a powerful way that you said it, because I know a lot of people, I've heard so, and I say it myself, I make sure that I exercise so that I can be the best mom that I can be. When you say, the person that I'm bringing to my family, it just puts like a different spin on it that makes it more acceptable almost for some reason. Self-care is important because you want to bring that person to your family. That's a great statement.
Yeah, I love that line.
Having said that, another great statement that I'm sure you've got, a little snippet for us that could be pretty powerful. Is there something that you would say to the listener? We are in this final COVID stretch. People are starting to get vaccinated and numbers are hopefully going to start to go down, and herd immunity is hopefully on the horizon. A lot of people are exhausted from isolation. They're COVID exhausted. Anything that you can say to them that they can take with them, carry through the end of this?
First and foremost, this is time limited. This is not going to be forever. And then also, and this holds true pandemic or no pandemic, you are enough. Whatever you're struggling with, whatever you're feeling a failure about or wanting to more, know that you are enough.
That's great.
That's a great mantra. I'm writing it down.
Yeah, right.
I do what I refer to as Post-it note therapy. So that's the kind of thing that I have patients write on Post-it note and put on their mirror or on their computer so that every time they see it, they are repeating it to themselves. Because research has shown, I can tell you that you're enough all day long. Your partner can tell you that you're enough all day long. Your kids can tell you that you're enough all day long. But if you are not telling yourself that, if you are telling yourself you're not enough, that is the voice that's loudest in our head. And that's going to be the one that impacts our emotional and mental functioning the most.
That's great. That's very powerful. Another thing that I want to touch on really quickly, because it is just so empowering. You have started your own private practice. Tell us a little bit about that. How long have you had your private practice?
I started my private practice in 2017 after my daughter was born, 6 weeks premature, and we were in the process of getting her diagnosis. And that was sort of a life-changing moment. At the time, I'd been working with a very successful group practice on the other side of town. And I realized immediately that that was not going to be tenable. I was not going to be able to drive 45 minutes in each direction and work long hours with a child that had such significant medical complications. So I actually launched my business from the NICU.
Oh my gosh.
I still remember clearly, holding my daughter on my chest, skin to skin, and on my phone, designing my business cards.
Incredible.
I started in 2017, and thankfully I had a number of patients that followed me all the way to the other side of town right away. So we were doing well from day one, and I'm very grateful for that. And since that time, I now have 4 other clinicians working with me, and we continue to grow.
That's amazing.
Now, in this era that we're in with virtual appointments, are you now starting to think about expanding? Because really, with this video conferencing, you can talk to anyone in the world, which is must be so exciting for you.
Well, that's only partly true. So we can only talk to people who are located in the state in which we are licensed.
Ah, didn't know that. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. So any mental health provider who has a license has to protect that license. And so I can conduct therapy with people who are in Ohio, or in some cases, I've had patients who have moved away and I've been able to get credentialing in their state, but it is something that you would have to do. So if I wanted to talk with anyone in the world, I would have to get licensed in all 50 states.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
So what's the name of your private practice? So anyone that's in the Cleveland area can track you down.
It's Westside Behavioral Health, and really could be anyone in Ohio, as we are doing a lot of teletherapy. We're doing exclusively teletherapy at the moment, but it's something we anticipate keeping in the long term.
Nice.
So lastly, we want to ask you a few questions, and we like to call it our wrap session, our Nirvana wrap session. What is your favorite wellness or beauty hack?
Well, I've got a couple of them for you.
Okay.
That's okay. So
Share. No, we love it.
Love it.
my beauty hack is the Revlon hair dryer / volumizing brush.
I know it well.
Oh my gosh, it makes dealing with my hair way easier. But in terms of wellness, my favorite one is intermittent fasting. It serves so many important functions in cell turnover, regulating hormones, increasing energy levels. And it's something that I have done sort of off and on as it's become more trendy. But I also have an autoimmune disorder, and my physicians have been very clear that I really need to be doing this to help reduce inflammation. And I find that the more committed to intermittent fasting I am, the more energy I feel. My mornings, I am just locked in. I am energetic. I am focused. I feel fantastic. It's really a wonderful, natural, easy to do thing.
Yeah. So what time do you start eating?
So I usually start eating around like between 11:30 and 12:30. And then I stop usually by 6:30.
That's very cool. I don't think I've ever heard that it can give you such a great buzzing energy.
I feel great in the morning.
Very nice.
And then the last hack that I want to share with you is using daylight light bulbs. We are in winter.
Mm-hmm.
And winter for many of us is dark and gray. Certainly any fellow Clevelanders listening can appreciate that. And daylight light bulbs are designed to mimic the sun. And so that's going to elevate your mood. And so in my home and in my office, every light bulb is daylight. My husband often jokes that I'm lighting us up like an airport, but it's really as a means of elevating people's mood and energy levels in a very easy, affordable kind of way.
I love that. It reminds me of my sunrise alarm clock that I talked about a couple of episodes ago. Huge difference, but I need to start changing my light bulbs out. Love it. How do you maintain your daily nirvana? Like, what do you do to keep yourself positive and balanced on a daily basis?
So I do about 30 minutes on the treadmill every day. Not even necessarily fast. I'm not a runner by nature. It's not my favorite, but I do try to spend 30 minutes briskly walking, getting my heart rate going. Just giving myself permission to do that is, like for many people, a huge feat in and of itself. And so making that commitment to myself feels really good. And then I also try to work on a meditation practice, and at a minimum, finding a few small chunks of time throughout the day where I can be still, where I can turn everything off, focus on my breath. It might be 10 minutes after I wrap up a session, I might just sit still quietly, close my computer, just have a moment. It could be driving in the car with the radio off and my phone on silent, or laying in bed in the morning before I wake up, just trying to steal those moments of stillness and peace.
We're big advocates of that here. You got your movement
Absolutely.
and your meditation balance going. I love that. I would love it if you would want to stick around for a product review. Do you want to hear? Amy always brings the best product reviews. You want to hang out for a couple of minutes? Okay, cool.
So this week, I'm glad you mentioned sleep hygiene, because I want to talk about something that has always been a challenge for me, which is I'm always, or not all the time, but a lot of the time, hot at night. It's either I'm hot or my husband's hot. And it's like you can never regulate the temperature, no matter how many times you change the thermometer knob in your room. And we've tried different pajamas and different sheets and different cooling pillows, and nothing has seemed to work. Recently, my friend Leslie recommended a brand of sheets to me called Cozy Earth, and they are expensive. They start at around $250 for a set, but they do have a lot of sales often. So I happen to get mine on sale, and you can get them at cozyearth.com. They're made from bamboo, and they're really, really high quality, and they are so soft. And honestly, the temperature is this perfect temperature. I don't know how they do it, but they feel so luxurious. At night, when I get into bed, I'm like so excited to jump into bed when these sheets are on the bed because I know I'm going to have a good night's sleep. I mean, it really makes a big difference. So they only come in white. They're free of harmful chemicals. They're non-toxic, dye-free. It's certified organic bamboo. It's made from bamboo fiber and silk, all organic. Everything's sustainable. It's sourced from USDA certified organic farms. And again, they're just so relaxing. I'm literally excited every time these sheets are on my bed that I bought another pair so we wouldn't go without them. The only problem is it's very hard to wake up in the morning because I just want to stay in bed and cuddle with these amazing sheets, but I am not hot in the sheets. I feel so comfy and good. It kind of has this cool feeling when you jump in, but then it gets warm and it's so great. Katie knows this. I bought the Cozy Earth comforter, which is like changed the game. And then my husband bought me pajamas. So now I'm like Cozy Earth out. But speaking of sleep hygiene, I think sleep is medicine. I tell my kids that all the time. I mean, it is so important to get sleep. It contributes to so much of how you function. So having the right experience and sleep setup is crucial. So highly recommend Cozy Earth.
And I can speak to it because I have slept in the Cozy Earth sheets in your guest room. And
that's right.
Yeah, it is like the perfect night's sleep. They are fantastic.
Yeah, so soft and cozy.
Yeah. All right. Well, why don't we hit our mantra of the week? I have one that I think is, pretty pertinent to what you brought today, Dr. Cooper. And also it came to me today because I had a little bit of a rough moment this morning that I'll share. I found out via social media that in my town, the vaccination was readily available for Group 1B, which I was supposed to be in because of my autoimmune disease. And I was psyching out and trying to make an appointment, heart rate going a million miles an hour, thinking this is it. I'm finally going to get this vaccination. And then I found out that my government moved people with underlying health conditions to 1C. So it was a big kick in the teeth. And it really took me a moment to regroup afterwards. And then that's when I kind of found this mantra to get me through it. So you cannot control what happens to you, but you can control your attitude toward what happens to you. So I'm going to be taking that one. Yeah. Take that one with you this week.
That is a great one. I love it. Well, thank you, Dr. Cooper, for being on the show. This was so enlightening, and I feel so relaxed and comfortable after speaking with you. I think you have definitely spoken to me and Katie and the audience, and I think everyone should feel kind of more positive about what everybody's going through right now. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Nirvana Sisters. For more information on this episode, check out the show notes, please subscribe, and leave us a review. Also, find us on Instagram at Nirvana Sisters. If you loved what you just listened to or know someone that would, please share it and tag us. Tune in next week for a fresh new episode of Nirvana Sisters. We'll continue to watch out for all things wellness so you don't have to. Bye.